about 2 weeks since the Switch 2 Direct that kind of shook up a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and people have been really wanting me to make a video about it. I almost didn't, because TBH, I was very disappointed, to be honest, in a lot of things. Not everything, but I was just really feeling bummed out about the whole situation and how much of an uproar it caused and how much misinformation there was going around about the Switch 2, but I decided it's been long enough, I think I can kind of talk about my feelings about it now. And yes, I'm back on the floor. Wow, that's crazy. It's been like months? I don't know. Hi everybody, my name's Alex, aka Quality, and welcome back to the channel. Also, sorry I had to go close the blinds because the sun was like beaming in my face. But just as a disclaimer, this isn't going to be any kind of hardcore analysis of every single moment of the Direct. This is very much so just going to be my own personal thoughts about what I'm excited for and what kind of disappointed me throughout the Direct, and just with all of the Switch 2 information that's come out afterwards as well. Also, at the time of recording this, the US and Canada still cannot pre-order the console. There's been no new updates about that at all, so we're just kind of all sitting in limbo. So just so you know, if you're watching this in the future, what time this is happening at, where in the whole timeline leading up to the Switch 2 release this is. So there you go. So let's start with the positives. Obviously, we started out the Direct with Mario Kart World, which looks better than I ever could have imagined. Now, I think the direction they're going in with this game is really, honestly, kind of amazing. It's weird. It's definitely weird, but I think it's a great progression of the series, making it open world, being able to explore it, and also I love the concept of being able to race from track to track to track. When I was a kid and playing Double Dash, I loved the fact that in courses like Peach Beach, you could see Daisy's cruise ship off in the distance, or it just felt like the world of Double Dash itself was very connected with one another, and that's what this feels like. I super love it. The other thing that I used to do as a kid is I'd go on time trials and just run around the courses exploring what I could see, and now that's just like a mode in this game, is just free roam, wandering the world. I think that's so cool. I think that is so cool. Over the past few days, I've had some friends go off and go play Mario Kart World at like the Switch 2 event situations, and they've all loved it. So I'm super pumped for this. I think this being a launch title, I figured it was going to be, but it makes the most sense because this is absolutely a console seller for sure. Mario Kart 8 was just such a staple on the Switch, and I'm sure people will still be playing Mario Kart 8 well after Mario Kart World comes out, but it just seems like there's so much going on in this game, and I can't wait for the Mario Kart World Direct happening later this week, I believe on Thursday, and yeah, I'm so excited to see more information. I also just love the new art style of the characters. We kind of saw this art style popping up a little bit in Super Mario Wonder, or at least like a very different variation on the typical Mario character art style that we've gotten used to over the years, and I really love it. The characters are so expressive. It feels modern without feeling like, you know, just too similar to everything else. It still feels very unique to me, and I'm kind of into it. We'll talk a little bit more about that later with a different game, but yeah, it looks really cool. One other thing that I think is great for the Switch 2 that we really haven't seen on any other consoles excluding the Switch is incredible third-party support right off the bat. Well, even honestly, the Switch 1, there were third-party games right at launch, but not nearly as many as the Switch 2. It feels like third-party developers have been waiting for the Switch 2 with like bated breath this entire time, just like, when is this gonna come out? We want to put our games on it. I mean, having games like Elden Ring and Cyberpunk and Borderlands 4 is coming to the Switch 2. What? That's insane. That is super crazy. Now, unfortunately for me, this was part of the Direct where I kind of started to lose interest a little bit, and we'll talk more about that later, but when you go back and look at it, so many third-party games were announced for the Switch 2 in such a short amount of time, games that have already been out as well as upcoming releases. It was kind of wild, honestly. Like, wow. Especially if you look back at the Wii and the Wii U era, there was like no positive third-party support. Like, there was some third-party stuff, but it wasn't anything outstanding. It wasn't anything like impactful. Like, I feel like even though I could have played Elden Ring at any time, I feel as though Elden Ring coming to the Switch 2 is a huge deal for some people, and Cyberpunk being entirely on the cart. CD Projekt Red did this with The Witcher 3 when they released the Switch port of that, but it's just, I don't even know. It's so cool. It's so cool to me. So seeing so much third-party love for the Switch 2 right off the bat gives me hope that we're going to see that throughout the console's life cycle as well. And continuing on from that, talking more about game-specific stuff, Duskbloods by FromSoft. Oh my gosh, listen, I am biased because one of the characters very much so looked like Astarion. And if you've been on the channel for a while, you know how I feel about Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3, but it looks really, really cool. It's PvPvE, which is a little weird, but honestly, I'm pumped. It's by, and I'm blanking on his name, so forgive me, the director of Elden Ring. So that's already kind of like a big deal. It's like, it's the guy, which I'll put his name on screen because I'm really blanking on it right this second. But that game looks awesome. And I think some people are feeling a little weird that it's a Switch exclusive, at least for now. But honestly, I think that's really cool. It seems cool that FromSoft is like, nope, we're putting some eggs into the Switch 2 basket. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm personally really excited for when that comes out. Continuing on talking about games, because sure, console hardware stuff is great. Things I'm most excited about are the games. Kirby Air Riders was a complete surprise, an even bigger surprise that the man behind it, Masahiro Sakurai, is back. His first time working on a Kirby game since, I think, the original Kirby Air Ride on the GameCube. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I freaked out. The moment I saw Kirby, I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, it's gonna be Smash or something, but I knew something about it. I knew. I was like, is this Kirby Air Ride? And it was. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. So that's gonna be awesome. I do think it's a little funny that, you know, of the first party games that were announced, 2 of them are racing games. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Regardless, it looks amazing and I cannot wait to grab that once it comes out. And of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza looks freaking incredible. There have been rumors about a 3D Donkey Kong coming out for years at this point in time. And the fact that it's going to be not necessarily a launch title, but very early on in the Switch 2's life cycle, I think that's awesome. I think that's really exciting. I know a lot of people were wanting a 3D Mario, but this feels different. It feels fresh. It feels new. I'm personally really excited for it. Again, we have that new art style for DK where his face is way more expressive. They used to try to make DK seem kind of like a pseudo-villain, I think, given, you know, the arcade game and just DK's history in general. And not saying DK wasn't expressive before, I think he's definitely one of the most expressive Mario characters, but I feel this even brings it out even more, which is just so cool. They've made him really goofy. A lot of people were joking in my stream that he's gonna be voiced by Seth Rogen again for the game, which I hope not, but man, that would be really funny. But yeah, the amount of freedom it looks like you have in this game with just being able to smash everything and roam around, it looks beautiful. It looks super awesome. And like, I'm kind of lukewarm on DK. I really like Donkey Kong Country. I did like Donkey Kong 64. I love Donkey Konga, the bongo game, but it's not that series that I'm like, oh my gosh, day one, but I do think this game is gonna be a day one for me because it looks so freaking good. And of course, we are getting the Bravely Default remaster, which is personally really exciting for me and my mom. She's only ever played Bravely Default 2 because she doesn't want to play it on my 3DS. So she's very excited to have this on the Switch 2 where she can finally play it and experience the first game as well. And I am too. I have it for the 3DS, but I still haven't played it yet. And I know you can play 1 and 2 separately without them really being connected, but still, I want to play the first one before I ultimately play Bravely Default 2. But of course, now to actually talk about the console, obviously it's pretty darn powerful. They're talking that it can go up to 120 frames per second, which is like, what? Excuse me? Seriously? That's kind of whack. And 4K ability. It looks like this console is going to look pretty darn good when playing on your TV. Also, a friend that went to one of those Switch 2 events said the LCD screen on it actually looked freaking great. Like, is so much better than the Switch 1, which was a personal fear of mine given that there was no OLED release for it. So it's nice to know that the screen itself is very vibrant, very beautiful, even in handheld. So I am excited to see how the Switch 2 is gonna run. It was confirmed that no matter what, if you play a Switch 1 game in your Switch 2, you are going to get some level of boost in terms of quality and how well it runs, which is exciting. I think that was kind of a given, but it is still reassuring given some of the other stuff that's been going on to know that that is still going to be a thing. So that's definitely nice. One other really small thing that I'm really happy the Switch 2 is doing is it's effectively doing DS download play, where you're able to play games with people that don't have the game, such as I'm pretty sure Mario Kart was one of them. There are a few others, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I love that that's back because that was such a pivotal part of my childhood, being able to play games like Mario Kart DS and any other game with DS download play. So it's really cool that they're bringing that back, and I do think that goes into a larger conversation is that Nintendo still wants you to share and play your games with your friends, which is a very positive thing given a point we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I just wanted to mention that. I think that kind of gets overlooked a little bit, and I just think that's a really cool thing. So there is a lot to be excited for with this console. But there's also some stuff that like kind of disappointed me and that I was pretty lukewarm on. I mean, in terms of lukewarm stuff, the video chat thing I just think is so ridiculous and so silly. It makes so much sense for the Switch to have some kind of actual video chatting, being able to talk to your friends kind of situation. And there were rumors about there being some kind of social media aspect on the Switch 2. And the entire part of that, I was just like, why didn't you just implement Discord? Because it looks like Discord. I think that's the funnier thing. It just looks like a bad version of Discord. If I'm remembering correctly, you can do video chatting and screen sharing with up to 4 people, but you can voice chat with up to 24, which will be very fun for Mario Kart. So there's at least that. I think that's cool. I'm glad that you don't just have voice chat on the Nintendo Switch Online app, which is getting rebranded anyway. So that's fine, but I do think it's so funny that when they were showing off the video chat, it looked horrible. And the screen share, it looked horrible. It looked absolutely horrible. So, I mean, you know, that's not great, but I just think that's so funny that they were like, yep, we're gonna show that off. So that's something I'm pretty lukewarm on in general. Is it good it exists? Probably. Will I probably use the voice chat? Sure. The camera stuff, probably not. Let's get into the nitty-gritty stuff of what I was disappointed in. Starting with the big one, the biggest point of contention with the Switch 2, the pricing. Now, just to put it out there, I do not think $450 for the Switch 2 is a bad price. I really don't. I was banking on it being $400, which, hey, I would have been way happier about, right? But I do not think $450 for the console is bad. I really don't, if we look at the market where it currently is, right? What I don't like is the ridiculous all over the board pricing of all of these different games. I just think that's ridiculous. Now, here's the thing. Could Mario Kart World be worth $80? Yeah, it definitely could. It depends on what you're looking for in a game, right? I'm not disagreeing with that. And I know that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be $100+, right? Unfortunately, the reality is video games are getting more expensive, just like everything else, you know? And unfortunately, we do have to relatively accept that. But the problem I have with it isn't even the more expensive stuff. It is the fact that we have all of these different levels of games and pricing that Nintendo is trying to do, so it's utterly confusing. It's completely and utterly confusing. Mario Kart World is going to be a quote-unquote premium game, which is why they're charging $80 for it. I can assume other games that we're going to see in this category are games such as mainline Zelda games, 3D Mario games, games like that. Other first-party games like Donkey Kong Bonanza are going to be at $70, which I think they should all just be $70 across the board, to be honest. Now, I didn't watch the clip or really read the interview, but I know Doug Bowser said something about how they're trying to do variable pricing where they're looking at a game and then determining its worth, which in concept, sure, you know, I get that, but at the same time, it's making things so confusing on the consumer end of things, like how much do these games actually cost? There was also a surplus of misinformation about the pricing of so many of these games. People were saying that physical games were going to be worth $90 versus $80, which I don't even know how that rumor necessarily started, but I definitely freaked me out, and it freaked a lot of people in my Discord out. Like, what do you mean the physical copy is going to be $90 for Mario Kart? Like, that's crazy. I think it's also hilarious too when you look at the Mario Kart World Switch bundle, where it's $500. You basically get $30 off of Mario Kart World, which I think is a great deal. I highly encourage people to go with the bundle. I'm probably not getting the bundle because I want Mario Kart physically. Am I maybe stupid? Yes, I am, but I gotta stick to my morals. I want to collect physically for as long as I can, and even though Mario Kart would be a fine game to have downloaded, I just want the physical copy of it really bad, so there you go. Now I'm jumping around a little bit, but let's talk about physical collecting on the Switch too as well, because this is another big point of contention for myself and a lot of people. So you have these physical games where the game is on the cart. You also have the key card situation where basically you are buying a game and there's a key card inside, and you put the key card into your Switch 2 and it downloads the game from the internet, meaning there's no game on the card when you buy it. Now, there was a lot of misinformation about this as well. The one positive thing about this is you can still trade or resell a game that has this format. The reason being is because the download is not connected to your Nintendo eShop account like how a digital copy of a game is. It is connected to the key card in the box. So that is definitely a positive in my opinion about the whole situation. Do I like the situation at all? No. I'd rather we just stay physical for as long as we can, right? But again, like the reality of the situation with games getting more expensive, the reality of the situation is the art of physical media collecting is dying. And does it crush my soul? Yes, it does. But we have to kind of be realistic. And I do think that this is a decently okay solution to that issue where it's still servicing the physical collectors while also kind of moving away from true physical games. It is still a hard pill to swallow though, because effectively it's like you're getting a code in a box, which Nintendo has already done for the Switch in multiple different ways. I mean, we saw that with a bunch of the Just Dance games and a few others as well. Or, games that don't have the full game on the cart and have a substantial download after you put the cart in the Switch for the first time. We've been seeing this for a while. So when I actually think about what is better, I do think I would take the keycard situation over definitely the code in the box, but maybe also over the substantial download afterwards as well. I don't know. It's a hard situation. It's really, really weird. And I do feel like they're looking at this towards a solution standpoint of this is going to appease certain people. However, the other criticism I have is why Bravely Default is going in this direction. That makes no sense to me. This is a 3DS game. You're telling me that this game is not going to fit on a cart all the way through? Why are we doing this? However, I think this is going to be more of a Square Enix issue than anything else. I don't know for sure. I really don't know for sure. And I love Square Enix. I'm a big fan of that company and all of their games. But I just feel like this is going to be something with their games, especially when it's remakes of older games, more niche games. I feel like they're going to go in this format. On one hand, it means that this game is pretty cheap. Like, Bravely Default is only $40, I think. So I guess there's that, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel really confused about this one. At the very least, you can treat it like a physical game, but is it really? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts about that one in the comments. Now, going back to pricing, one of the other weird things are the Switch 2 upgrades. Woo! Another huge point of contention for most people I know. So, there are different levels of Switch 2 versions. Once again, I think my biggest issue is how Nintendo is being so convoluted, not just with pricing, but how they're naming things, because it's making things way too confusing for what fits into what category. But that's an aside. So there are multiple different Switch 2 versions and upgrades involving a bunch of different games. One of the biggest examples are Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom getting Switch 2 versions, which are primarily just how well they run and how good they look, which for some people is a huge deal, right? And I'm not saying, oh, don't be excited about this. Absolutely be excited about playing these already beautiful games in a more beautiful way, for sure. So your options for this are, you can pay $70 for Breath of the Wild on Switch 2. That does not include the DLC. It is simply the base game. With DLC, it'll be upwards to $90, as confirmed by Nintendo very recently. Or you use your Switch 1 version and do a $10 upgrade pack. What seems to be the better way to do this, I wonder? Alternatively, if you have Nintendo Switch Online, you get these upgrades for free. So there's that, I guess. I understand, I guess, maybe charging a little bit for these upgrades, but I do think it's insane that the Switch 2 version, like, if you just buy the physical version of the Switch 2 copy of Breath of the Wild, you don't get the DLC. This game has been out for 8 years. What do you mean you're not just doing a complete version of the game and you're still charging more for it than when it came out 8 years ago? That is insane. That is absolutely insane to me. Tears of the Kingdom is almost less egregious, coming in at $80 for a Switch 2 version of the game. Now again, if you are a Switch 1 owner and you have these games already, then it's really not, you know, a big jump to play it and get the Switch 2 upgrade, right? Which, I mean, most people have these games, but it's still just the principle of the matter of you're charging $90 for a game that came out 8 years ago, where the biggest upgrade is just a few little fancy pixels. That's insane. That is insane to me. So I don't know. I just think that's weird. The other thing about it is when we're looking at other Switch 2 versions of games, such as Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which are effectively getting DLC. Sure, they're getting all of the performance upgrades and stuff as well, but they're also getting DLC specific to the Switch 2, which I believe is quite a bit more worth it. They're adding actual content, and you can still do the same thing, as you can still just upgrade your Switch 1 cart to get that extra little bit of content, which again, I think this is a fine solution for these games, I guess, but it's just kind of the principle of the matter, especially with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that you're charging for not much, really. People were saying, oh, well, you know, you get that new app. The app is existing for map collection stuff, just in general. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with this. But it's just confusing to me, and probably a lot of others, is they're putting this all under this umbrella and then have all of these separate categories, but they're all called the same thing, but they all cost different things and they all mean different things as well. It's at the point where I'm in that position where there are a few games that are coming out on Switch 1 and Switch 2 that, why on earth would I buy the Switch 2 version at this stage? Especially if a lot of those games are still going to get a little bit of a boost being played on the Switch 2 versus the Switch 1. Like games like Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, which is getting a Switch 2 version, I might as well just, like, you know, buy it on Switch 1 and play it on Switch 2. And it's cheaper, and it's giving me basically the same experience. They didn't say that there was anything special coming to the Switch 2 version, so, like, what kind of really is the point? I don't know. One game I will probably be getting a Switch 2 version of for sure is Pokemon Legends ZA. I just don't want to take any chances with buying a Switch 1 version of that game, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see. While I'm starting to warm up to Pokemon Legends ZA, I'm still not sure. I'm still a little hurt by the Pokemon company and what they've done over the past few years, so I don't know if it'll be a day one buy for me. We'll see. We'll see. And finally, I think one of the biggest things I was the most disappointed about with the Direct itself, and just with the launch, is the lack of first-party games. Like, the ones we got, don't get me wrong, huge, absolutely huge. There were three games from Nintendo that we did not know about, that don't already exist. And while those three are great, I really wanted more. At least not even more just at launch, but more to know about in the future. Now, there is the thought that because we usually get a June Direct in lieu of anything E3 related, that maybe we'll get a post-launch Switch 2 Direct talking about games for the rest of the year, which would be awesome. Like, that would get rid of any fears that I currently have. But it just, I was really kind of bummed out. And again, the third-party support is great, and it's so cool to see that there are so many of those games coming to Switch. But if you're like me that has a PC, this isn't really a big deal. Like, this really isn't. Or if you're, like, you have multiple consoles, like, a lot of the games they announced have been out for a long, long time. And, like, on one hand, it's exciting, but on the other hand, it just feels like Nintendo's playing catch-up, which they are. Which, I mean, they really just are. But I don't know. I just really wanted new stuff, and we didn't really get a lot of new stuff. Towards the end, we got another reel about basically everything they announced the week before that's also coming to Switch 2. Which is exciting, which is fine, which is cool, but there wasn't a lot of new stuff, and that's what I really wanted to help kind of save my, like, excitement for the console. But there wasn't a ton. There really was not a ton. So ultimately, my feelings are still pretty darn mixed about the console. The great news is, it's backwards compatible, so even if I buy the console and maybe Mario Kart, I have so many Switch 1 games that are going to be amazing experiences that I can experience on a new console. Or if I don't decide to buy the console day one, I still have my Switch, and that's fine. I don't think my life is going to change that drastically. So in conclusion, do I think I'm getting the Switch 2 on launch? If the price stays at $450, I think yes. Because honestly, one of the biggest parts of my excitement was I've never bought a console on launch before, and I wanted this to be the one. But if the price fluctuates higher, I don't know. I might have to wait. So we'll see. But let me know in the comments, what are you doing about the Switch 2? How do you feel about it? Are you still buying it day one no matter what? Are you holding off? Let me know. I'm so curious. We're in such a weird stage of this console and its release, and I don't know. I think we should all talk about our feelings, to be honest. But yeah, if you like this video, maybe give it a thumbs up, and if you like the vibes here, I try to create decent vibes, whether we're talking about difficult conversations like this, or fun video game music, like we will in the next video. Yeah, maybe stick around, maybe give it a subscribe, I don't know. We just hit 8,000 subscribers, and I'm so grateful, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here and supporting me. It means a lot. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me, because I have to go to work. I tried to film this very quickly before work, so woo, fun times. All right, everybody, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, boop.